So now that we know MVC, let's go ahead and put this into practice. So let's go ahead and create our first part of it, which is going to be a div tag. And this div tag here is going to be basically the element that we want to control, the part of the page we want to control with Angular. So I'm going to give this an ng controller attribute. I'm going to say first controller, and I'm just going to abbreviate the spelling. So inside my controller, I need a model. So let's go ahead and create an input, and we'll give this a type of text, and then let's make it a model, and we'll call it test, and then we'll give it a placeholder, enter some text, and by default a value of nothing. Then also let's go ahead and put a template tag here, handlebars, and we're going to output the value of the model test here. And then of course I need to, but this by itself, if I save this and I open this in a browser, I'm not going to see anything right away. Like, I don't get that double binding by default. If you inspect element and check the error here, you're going to see like that I have an error. It kind of says that it was an injector model error. So basically the solution is, if I have a controller defined somewhere, then I need to make sure that in my script tag I also use the controller. But before I can do that, I actually also have to angularize my page. So I need to first call the Angular library, then I need to create a module, and the module is going to be the name of the app, my app. And then of course any dependencies I want to add. And of course I want to store this into some variable, so I'll call this app. And this is just boilerplate. But by doing this one line of code here, now my JavaScript has access to this entire Angular page here, this entire module, if you will, this entire app. We've called this my app, and here that's where I've named it here. And then here I need to define the controller. So my controller is going to be that first controller here, and then of course I need a function, and this function is going to take something called scope, which we're going to get into later. But by default, scope will have access to our test model because it's inside the first controller, and by default it has no value, so I'm just going to leave it alone. So let's go ahead and run this now and check it out in our code. And if I inspect element, let's make sure I have no errors. So I have 0 errors. So does this work? Yes, it does. Hooray, we've got our first app working with AngularJS.